Hello and welcome. My name is Nicholas and this is Literally Graphic. And today I am going to be talking about the second volume of Princess Jellyfish. Despite the fact that it's really thick, it is a very fast read. As you'll see in the flip through, there's lots of oversized panels, a lot of stuff communicated through like visuals and facial expressions and stuff. As I kind of alluded to when I reviewed volume 1, volume 2, I appreciated the fact that it felt like more of the conflict became internal, which can seem a little bit soap opera-y to people who don't like internal conflict, but at the same time it was nice because in the first volume, particularly at the beginning, the one main character kept forcing the other main character and some of her friends to get kind of dressed up, and some of that did not involve 100% consent, it felt like. So while that is a very common source of shenanigans, as it were, I did appreciate the fact that in the second volume it moved more onto internal conflict, which obviously has met a lot fewer issues of consent. Since this series centers around a group of otaku women, a couple of guys, a lot of the story does center around accepting people who you might think are weird or different and not cool or stylish, or too stylish and too cool, as the case may be. So I do appreciate the overall message of like learning to accept people who are different from you, maybe accidentally falling in love with a few of them, trying to figure out what all of this means. There was some magical thinking on the part of some of the characters. Thought maybe they become super hyper fashion designers in France and stuff, but at the same time, unlike Bakuman and even Hikari no Go, there were always characters that were willing to correct the main character somewhat gently. I think it also helped that the author kind of inserted a narrative voice every once in a while, was like, yeah, this person has skipped many steps and is just suddenly thinking about being on the cover of Vogue. They don't have a clear plan, haha. We love them, but they're kind of silly. So there's a bit more of humility, a bit more realism, which I definitely appreciated about it. And I also liked the ways that their otaku-ness is being kind of used to save the day in the major conflict in the story, which is about gentrification, which is always interesting. So there's even a bit of a bad guy who's a woman, so, you know, there's that. I mean, she's possibly the most sexually liberated of all of the women in the story, which could be a bad thing, but I don't know, especially because they have accepted the stylish into their midst, even though they initially thought that they wouldn't be accepted by this group of hardcore otaku. I'm gonna wait and see. It doesn't necessarily feel like she's being completely demonized, even if there is a bit of a misunderstanding. Very low-key girl versus girl for one male character. It's not a hyper focus, and there isn't a whole lot of super conflict about that. There actually isn't that much conflict about it. It's just sort of comedy of not errors, but yeah, it doesn't feel like we're falling into the easy girl versus girl for a limited number of good guys cliche, and it doesn't necessarily feel like the kind of bad woman land shark being a bit sexually manipulative. It's not necessarily her sexuality that seems to be critiqued. I don't know. Yeah, no, it's an overall very fun, pretty low-key read. Not super preachy or anything, I don't think, for all that I'm extrapolating a lot of political implications from it. But yeah, no, it's a super fun read. I love the anime, as I said before. I haven't watched in a while. I do feel like the end of this manga brought up some different things that weren't in the anime, because I'm assuming the manga... I'm hoping the manga goes a bit further than the anime, so I'm assuming, especially near the end, they probably had to wrap things up, because it wasn't too terribly long of an anime. Oh no, I should probably actually read up on that. The library only has 2 volumes so far, because they only just started translating the manga, so I am looking forward to reading more of these in the future at some point. So yeah, I would highly recommend this, especially to any kind of nerdy, geeky female who's into anything, yeah, no, this is a great time, But I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. Yeah, so bye. And as always, I would like to acknowledge that for the most part, all of my videos are filmed and produced on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, an Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation, land covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant.